Watch this.
A local teacher says she caught mice in traps, found feces in the kitchen, and even baked a mouse in the oven. But now she's fighting back. Plus, a new dig site in downtown Boise is giving archaeology students hands-on training and helping tell the story of Idaho's past. 81 years after D-Day, a Boise sculptor unveils 4 stunning tributes in Normandy, honoring the airmen who helped change the course of history. New for you this afternoon, Idaho Governor Brad Little says the state of Idaho will invest in transporting undocumented people convicted of serious crimes to ICE detention centers. From there, those people will be processed for deportation. This is through the Idaho State Police. Idaho is now entering an agreement with ICE to transport criminals to ICE facilities after the completion of their sentences. So, we're talking about undocumented people that are convicted of a crime, sentenced, and then have served their time. And this all falls under the 287G program that allows state and local law enforcement to do specific work usually assigned to immigration officers. The move this afternoon follows an executive order from Governor Little that prompted a discussion between ISP, Homeland Security, and ICE to figure out how Idaho can carry out President Trump's immigration policies, which were declared as a national emergency earlier this year. Under this new agreement, ISP is authorized to spend up to $300,000 to carry out about 100 transports over the next 12 months. So each case is estimated to cost about $3,000. The state says that each transport will include multiple, quote, dangerous illegal alien criminals, end quote, and they will be sent to the ICE detention facility in Jefferson County, Idaho, to begin, and other county jails will likely soon be approved to be ICE facilities as well. Governor Little's office says that higher profile, more dangerous criminals could be transported to ICE detention facilities that are outside of Idaho. And this addresses a reality in the state right now. Undocumented people, they finish their sentences and they head back into the community because there are not enough resources to process them through ICE for actions like deportation. So this is expected to start in a few weeks. Budgeting needs to be approved by the Board of Examiners. That is the governor, Secretary of State, AG, and the state controller. The goal here, according to the governor's office, is to prioritize what's considered serious criminals. And with the limited budget, you can imagine that state police will need to take inventory of undocumented people set to finish their sentences. And from there, they'll decide which cases are the most pressing.
We've been under construction off and on for about the last 2.5 years. First with our landscaping project, then with our actual building construction project, now with the archaeological dig. At least in this case, there's minimal disturbance to our work in the building. We just get to see the cool things they're bringing out of the ground.
You know, sometimes history isn't just for the books. We're standing on it. It's beneath our feet. At the corner of Main Street, where the old assay office stands, a routine construction project turned into a time capsule of Boise's mining era. Last fall, as they were digging trenches for faster internet outside the building, crews uncovered something a lot more interesting than fiber optic cable. Old crucibles and forgotten fragments dating back to the gold rush era. Now, Hunter Funk explains that archaeologists are back to finishing what construction crews accidentally started, finding hidden stories beneath Boise's downtown.
Here we are, not quite a year later, and now we're taking the opportunity to be very scientific, but we're also still going to get as much of that collection as we can.
Hundreds of pieces of history were uncovered, but limited to the one area where the fiber optic line was being placed nearly a year ago. But now, the Idaho Preservation Office, University of Idaho, and BSU students are sifting through the rest.
First day we were finding artifacts.
I'm kind of curious because we have this mark here.
The Historic Assay Office, built in 1871, once buzzed with the hopes of miners seeking fortune. It's a facility where the quality and purity of precious metals, such as gold, silver, and platinum, were tested and certified, and now home to the Idaho State Historic Preservation Office. So it's kind of ironic that now, more than 150 years later, it's yielding secrets long buried. This dig is giving students a field school in their own backyards.
Field schools are a big deal in archaeology. If you want to be a professional archaeologist, you need a field school. It's part of the requirements for entering the profession. And a lot of the traditional model has been, even if you're from Boise, Idaho, you end up doing a field school in Europe and digging up, say, Roman ruins. But then when you come back to work in the States, you have great training on Roman archaeology. You maybe don't have the best training on what's literally around you in your city.
This allows them to avoid spending thousands of dollars on other digging opportunities because it's right here at home. You might ask, how did they figure out where to dig?
Ground penetrating radar. It's a technique for, without removing the soil, getting an image of what might be below the soil. And what it does is it just tells you if there's anomalies. So it'll tell you if something slightly different is going on. It won't tell you what's down there. But there are 3 spots that they highlighted that we're going to go in and test.
They also look at places where people would frequent, out the front and back doors, eventually digging a meter deep.
I love anything where you can see someone has modified it, someone has maybe scratched an initial into it. People were really clever, especially back if we're talking about like 1870s. There was a lot of reuse going on.
These are probable scorifiers that we use during the mining process. We clearly have 2 different ones. Not only can you tell from the shape of the base, but the fact that this one has kind of numbers engraved into it.
And the finds already adding up.
As a whole, it'll be a great amount of data that we can look at and sort of figure out, you know, what day-to-day life was like for the folks who lived here over the decades.
Each item is dug up, cleaned, cataloged.
There's a number actually right there, like that's kind of barely visible. It says, I think it reads 1.
And will eventually be returned to Boise. The artifacts tell a story of people, places, and life in Idaho. What began as a simple quest for faster internet quickly dug up a deeper connection to Boise's hidden history.
Anything that expands the story of the building's use and the type of work that they were doing here, even how they lived here.
Right outside of the State Historic Preservation Office. It's perfect. Yeah. And accidental discoveries, you know, they happen. This is a great example of like somebody finding something and calling the right authority, and then now we get to go back and find out more about the people who those items once belonged to.
And if that wasn't fitting enough, what could be more fitting than the Idaho Archaeology Fair at the Assay Office at the exact same time? Well, on Friday from noon to 6, they're going to be holding it on the lawn, and they will still continue to be digging up more of those artifacts as well.
Throughout your entire story, all I could think about is, I wonder what's buried beneath our studio.
Seriously, though, it's incredible, and it blows my mind just thinking about how much they end up finding. And a lot of this is their trash, right?
Yeah.
One man's trash. Our history, I guess you could say.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you think they'll find 100 years from now from us? Probably fiber internet.
Yeah, fiber internet and iPhones.
Wow. Thanks, Hunter. A Boise School District teacher says that 7 years of rodent contamination in her classroom put her students at risk. She claims both the district and the school continue to not fully address the issue, and that her doctor believes that the infestation has caused her to be sick. Aspen Shumpert has more on why she's urging the district to make some changes and now pursuing legal action.
If you find a job you love, you never work a day in your life.
For the last 6 years, Michelle Chung has worked as the Family and Consumer Sciences teacher at West Junior High School, teaching students how to cook, how to balance finances, and manage stress.
It's literally the game of life.
But shortly after getting the job in 2019, she took home something not so appetizing.
I ended up taking a mouse home with me in my bag. Ran right through my kitchen into under the pantry, like through the door. At that point, I was like, oh boy, okay. This had to have come from my classroom.
She says she suspected that because she had found mouse traps in the classroom early on.
I went back to school the next day. I told Janet Cherry, our principal at the time, Liz Croy, the vice principal at the time, and they just kind of chuckled at me and said, ew, so gross, I would freak out.
What she didn't expect was that this would turn into a years-long mice infestation in her classroom and a battle for it to get rectified.
I allowed the love of my job to be like, okay, that response is fine. Like, I'll take it. It's okay.
It turned into a cycle of the same emails, she says, when she would report seeing a mouse or mice droppings to her principal.
Make sure the custodial staff was CC'd, and it would be the same response. Hey, can you get Michelle more sticky traps?
COVID hit and students were learning from home. While they were, the mice made room 113 their home, and the infestation grew.
It gave these little rodents the opportunity to nest, to breed, to do whatever they needed to in that room where there's food and warmth and insulation.
When students returned to the classroom after COVID, the situation was even worse. Mice continued to be caught on traps, droppings appeared on counters and in drawers, and Chung's email reports to building administrators continued.
And it smelled so horrifically. I found mouse nests behind my washer machine, mouse nests in my curriculum closet, in sewing machine covers, cupcake liners.
Later, dead baked mice in the ovens. In 2023, the district eventually shut down the room for months to clean and replace insulation, but Chung says the repairs were inadequate.
I would go down there myself and I would open the ovens and there would be mouse droppings in it and it would be the same insulation. So then I would feel like I was being lied to.
During this time, Chung started getting sick. She was eventually diagnosed with multiple Lyme disease infections.
They tested me for an array of rodent diseases and viruses and different things, and it came back positive for babesiosis. So that's when I realized that I got it from a tick that was hosting on the mice, like the larva form of the tick, and that's what my doctors settled with.
Chung has been on medical leave since late 2024 while getting treatment, but in April hired a state license inspector to examine her classroom. The results, she says, were alarming.
My entire classroom is covered in mouse urine. My keyboard, the bowls, the cups, the plates, the oven knobs, their aprons. The aprons that my students are wearing have mouse urine all over them.
She says the problem just keeps persisting.
I was in my classroom last Thursday and I found mouse droppings. So they can continue to say there's no problem.
Now Chung is fighting for a change, not just for herself, but for the students.
Make it safe for my students. It literally breaks my heart that they're putting innocent, healthy children in a classroom that's not safe.
Chung is pursuing legal action on two fronts, a federal lawsuit claiming the district violated her rights under the Family Medical Leave Act, and then a state tort claim alleging the district created unsafe working conditions that endangered both her health and student safety. We are waiting to hear back from the school district specifically on the allegations that Chung lined out today. I did talk to them last week when I was starting to look into this, and they were aware that mice had been in the school in the past. They said address those things, but no reports of mice inside of the school for this 2024-2025 school year. Of course, Chung is rebutting that, or going against that, and saying her inspection that took place just a few months ago is saying the opposite of that.
I will be very interested to see what the district says based on, those pictures that you can see under the blue light. Something gross. Okay, all right. Well, we will find out. Aspen, thank you for that.
Keep our eyes on it.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Whether you know it or not, you've likely seen his work all across Idaho. Sculptures. Coach Lyle Smith outside Albertson Stadium, Olympian Gretchen Fraser in Sun Valley, the World War II aviator at the Boise airport, the I Will Have Your Back statue at the Idaho Veterans Cemetery. Statues from California to Rhode Island. He's the only artist to have 3 pieces in the Sanctuary Hall inside the United States Capitol. And today, Boise's Benjamin Victor has gone global to honor one of the greatest military invasions in history. Brian Holmes spoke to him from France.
The 8th Air Force became known as the greatest air armada in history, and from the skies helped turn the tide of World War II. A fact not forgotten in Normandy, France, 81 years after D-Day. At today's remembrance ceremony in Saint-Mary-Glaise,
would you like to say something? I'd love to.
Is sculptor Benjamin Victor from Boise, whose only connection to that invasion is what he brought with him and will leave behind.
And what a history. What an amazing history.
4 new statues honoring men of the mighty 8th. The ace fighter pilot, Colonel Donald Blakesley. B-17 gunner, Maynard Snuffy Smith. Medal of Honor recipient, General James Doolittle, who, wanting to see for himself how the invasion was going, flew a P-38 across the beaches for 2 hours and then reported back to headquarters. And B-17 pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Rosie Rosenthal, who was only required to fly 25 missions, but he flew 52.
Who knew that if they didn't win this war effort, that Jewish people all over the world would suffer under Hitler's horrible regime. He knew what was going on there.
Those are the kind of particulars Benjamin takes in to bring out the real-life details of his life-size sculptures. He met family members, he read their books, he learned their stories. But the other details, well, those came from the Warhawk Air Museum in Nampa.
They gave me every piece of gear, every piece of clothing for all 4 of them. So I was able to measure every item and make sure it was completely accurate.
And he and his team were asked to complete them all in just 9 months.
I should have said no, but I couldn't say no. Because, I mean, these guys, their lives and everything they meant to our country and the world, I thought this has to happen. There's nothing quite like it here in Normandy. There's a lot of monuments, but this one is very unique in not just the amount of detail and accuracy, but then all the way down to the patina colors that I chose for the piece.
But for Benjamin, being there to see them unveiled,
I don't know. I hope I can hold it together.
Still not as emotional as his appreciation of being part of this history.
I hope that everybody enjoys the artwork as much as I enjoyed creating it.
Hopefully my piece will get across what my words will never be able to get across. It's a national honor to be able to represent our country here on the world scene.
Benjamin told us that he was taken aback by the love and appreciation the French still have for Americans in the Allied countries that were a part of their liberation. And the weight of visiting the American cemetery in Normandy, the emotions hit you like a ton of bricks, he said. He only hopes that his contribution will add to that and help bring the heroes of that invasion to life. By the way, 50 World War II veterans attended last year's 80th anniversary of D-Day. This year, there were only 23. One of the more than 16 million who served there are fewer than 1% still with us.
We did have some showers that decided to pop up today in the central mountains. We knew we had a slight chance of seeing some sprinkles this afternoon, but those showers are moving a little further south than we had originally anticipated. However, they still should clear out before the sun goes down tonight. Looking at the Treasure Valley, though, and the Magic Valley, we shouldn't see any showers later this afternoon and even for several days. Looking into next week, that's the next time we anticipate any precipitation. We're looking pretty clear, dry, and relatively warm until sunset tonight. That's going down at 9:23 p.m. We're just about 2 weeks away from summer solstice, the longest day of the year. Tomorrow we will see another gradual warm up, another slight increase in temperatures. Today we have reached the low 80s in the Treasure Valley so far. Tomorrow we should reach 80s in both valleys. Magic Valley and the Treasure Valley Mountains will be in the 70s tomorrow. You can see by Saturday we're anticipating 91 degrees, and all the way to Monday we are getting really close to triple digits once again.
Police are still looking for the man accused of killing his 3 daughters in the state of Washington. Meanwhile, the judge in Brian Kohberger's case issued clarification for media access for the upcoming murder trial. And a potential affiliation between the University of Idaho and the University of Phoenix is scrapped. Jude Binkley's got the 411.
The Valley County Sheriff says an unconfirmed sighting of Travis Decker in McCall was not him. Decker is the Washington man accused of killing his 3 daughters. He has military training, and sheriffs say he may have the ability to survive off the land for weeks, if not months. This comes after another day of searching near Leavenworth, which is the general area where the bodies of Decker's daughters, Peyton, Olivia, and Evelyn, were found early Monday. We're learning more about how media will access the Brian Kohberger trial in Ada County. Judge Stephen Hippler ruled this week that 1 seat will be reserved each day for local media from Latah County, where the murders happened and where taxpayers are footing the bill. The rest of the courtroom seats will be filled through an online lottery. Latah County reporters will need to agree on a rotating pool journalist to cover the trial for all local outlets. Kohberger is accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. His trial starts in August. The University of Phoenix and the University of Idaho have agreed to end discussions about a potential affiliation. 4-3 Education, a nonprofit affiliated with the U of I, tried to acquire the University of Phoenix in 2024. The termination was approved during a special board meeting earlier today. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Jude Binkley.
All right, we'll end this half hour with some of your comments. We will start with this one from Scott. He writes, it's good to hear that ISP will assist ICE with undocumented aliens that are being released from prison. Unfortunately, not all states are doing this. This will definitely make our streets safer. That perspective from Scott. I will say there are some that have concerns, and we're going to focus on that coming up next on the news at 6. Other comments, Brian in Boise writes, exactly where is the money coming from in this compliance with ICE? Is that our tax dollars? So they have to go before the State Board of Examiners, but this will likely be state dollars. We'll figure out exactly where those dollars come from in the coming days and weeks. Sue writes, hitting all the feels of today's show, laughter at the Musk-Trump divorce, anger at the School of Mice, pride and gratitude at the World War II sculpture. Yeah, what a half hour we had, and we'll have even more for you tomorrow on the 208. Have a good one.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.